So hi everyone, my name is Michelle. I'm with the Majurity Trust. I've been with Majurity for the past 6 years. So I joined in February 2020, so it has been 6 years. My previous experience was that I studied accounting as my undergrad. So I did that for 4 years, and then I came out, and then the usual kind of Singapore ladder thing, right? Came out from the accounting degree, and guess where I went? Yeah, I went to audit, right? One of the firms, audit firms, and then basically did an internship there. Kind of got an offer, and then was very lucky that I didn't have to think of my first job. Went into it fresh-eyed. 3.5 days later, I explained that I'm like a defeated robot with cracking joints. But the experience in audit for 3.5 years, I think, no regrets for it. I think. Got to learn many things, see different kind of projects, and I'm very thankful to be actually being in the space right now, as in the social impact space, being able to apply my skills and kind of expertise that I've gotten from audit in my undergrad background. Funny story is that anyone had coffee with Martin Tan, my CEO, before? Coffee with Martin Tam is scary, okay? I can say that he's not in Singapore today, he's in India, he's with the Dashra team, so he's not upstairs or anything, so he can't hear me. It's scary because I just went for a coffee with him just to get connected, to find out more about Majurity Trust, and back then we were in a smaller office with Xero at home. After I left my job in audit, I was just interested to find out about the space. Met Martin connected me with the then finance director, and then 1.5 hours later, after a coffee on the same day, the job offer came. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm signing up for, but 6 years later, truly no regrets. We started as a smaller team then. I was employee number 6. Today we are a team of 43. So with 7x, oh my gosh, in 6 years. But I really, I'm not here, if you think finance, look at Foundry, the building, you look at big operations. I'm really trying to bring my experience as employee number 6, finance hire number 2, that started out the finance process then as a smaller team, and to kind of also being able to relate to some of the problems or challenges that you guys face. So yeah, that's me. So basically, audit, question to who? Okay, who does it? Who is it for? Who is it for? Or who do I appoint, right? Who's the main beneficiary of an audit? Well, let me just put it out there first that if you guys, I think majority of you guys will be registered as a CLG, Company Limited by Guarantee in the space. There is a requirement by ACRA that auditors have to be appointed 3 months upon incorporation. So if you guys are recently incorporated and have passed the 3-month mark and have not appointed an auditor, please do it really soon so ACRA doesn't come after you. Who's the audit really for? It really depends on kind of where you're at. Audit is mandatory for all CLGs, however small or big that you are. The end goal of it is really to kind of get that signed financial statements with the audit signature and to kind of pass all this legal requirement. But I think it's also more than that. Audit is not just about a piece of paper. My sense is that even though it's sian, it's troublesome, jialat, alamak, there are a lot of things that can surface in the process of getting into that final stage of signed FS. That I will cover a little bit more later. Audit when? So I have a recommended timeline here. Some might say idealistic, but it's a recommended timeline. Basically, kind of from when your year ends. Okay, for example, if you're a March year-end company, the end goal, I think most of us would know if you're a head of organization or dealing with something with, in terms of compliance and regulation, that is at the 6-year mark. 6-month mark after your year end, you have to hold your AGM, and you need to do your annual submissions. Annual submissions are 3 things. One of it would be your signed FS that your auditors would be part of. This particular timeline is actually how in my experience in Majurity, how we have been doing it. So making sure that by the 2nd month of after my year end, I make sure I close my books and I get this starter pack ready for auditors. What a starter pack is, stay tuned. And then audit fieldwork happens about 2 weeks to about 2 months of kind of clearing queries back and forth, and then nearing the AGM date and the annual submissions, we finalize our FS. I work with my COPSEC to get my board resolution ready and AGM documents, and making sure that my auditors get the FS signed. And then, of course, after that, your corporate secretary, if your company has a corporate secretary, you should have a corporate secretary, would have to file your signed FS with ACRA 1 month after the 6-month mark. So at the 7-month mark after your year end, it should be filed with ACRA. If not, I was just speaking with someone just landed from the US today that we are a fine city in Singapore, right? Efficient and fine. Yeah, if you don't meet that deadline, then you get fined. So let's not get there. We have better use of our resources as well. Yeah, so this is the recommended timeline that we can start our audit, and then making sure that we have our books ready, so that we don't rush until like the 5th month mark and then we start panicking. Okay, audit, why? I saw someone put why at just like the Mentimeter at the cloud. So why do we have to do an audit? I think I mentioned a bit earlier is that if you go back, you would see that actually there's some annual submissions that we need to do, and part of it is a signed FS. So unfortunately, being a charity in Singapore, or even at CLG, right, we do have regulation requirements, so we do have to do an audit. So I always approach the audit process as with a phrase: to begin with the end in mind. I know you have probably already heard this, it's a bit cheesy. But what is the end? Anybody? I mentioned it many times. Yes, I see that. Thanks, Paul. It's the signed financial statements by the auditors, right? That's the end paper that needs to be done, and then it needs to be submitted. And then we don't have to think about it for the next 6 months, and then the cycle repeats. What is really an audit, right? And then I want to kind of debunk what are some terms that auditors come in, like use when they come to you guys. And then what are the common sentiments I hear about auditors is that they're a bit scary. I don't really know how to relate to them. They're telling me foreign language I don't understand. So things like PBC list. I don't know if anybody heard of that list before. PBC list. Walkthrough. Okay, I see some nods. Anybody has bodily reactions to it? Listings, this list, that list. It's not about listing on like being publicly listed. Balance sheet schedule. Anybody? No. Journal entries. This is not about us in therapy or anything. It's our debit and credits. Confirmations and adjustments. I think these are some like big terms that I'm hoping that in the next few slides I'm able to debunk what it is, and to make things accessible to why auditors need some of these things. So what do I really need to audit? So in my financial statements, okay, let me caveat first that when I talk about financial statements today, I'm not really talking about like disclosure and what I need to really put in. I think that's another session for another time. But really looking at the process on how the numbers end up on that piece of paper, right? So here we have our income statement, also known as a profit and loss statement, or some places they call it statement of financial activities. What an income statement is, it really is a kind of an overview of your total transactions. So if you are a December year-end company, 1st January to 31st December, income statement will capture all transactions that happen during the year. Money in, money out, money not yet in, not yet out, invoices coming in, or agreements coming in. So this is a very simplified profit and loss statement, okay? So now I'm wearing my hat as an auditor, right? And then this is let me take one step back. This is my final product, my end in mind that I will be showing on my financial statements. So what auditors really look at, right, is actually all these lines, right? What goes behind these things can be what they call a trial balance. Okay, trial balance. Don't be afraid, it's just a word. Okay, trial balance, or a TB. This trial balance, I think with your bookkeepers or if you guys are doing your own finance records, you would have an accounting system, hopefully. Is anyone still on Excel? Everyone has an accounting system? Sorry, I assumed. Everyone has an accounting system? Great. Yeah, you will see that there's a different chart of accounts. So you will see different account codes, and then there's an account name, and then of course there are numbers associated to it. So what happens is that sometimes at the income statement level, oh my God, I feel like Vanna White. Okay, at the income statement level, they consolidate a bunch of accounts from the trial balance. So you see the 120,000 here. Oh my gosh, okay. Ding. The $120,000 here is actually made up of different accounts, right? And basically this is only part of the $120,000. If I were to pull out my entire accounts or trial balance of my company, I will get the entire year's full summary on transactions. Anyone lost? Anyone needs? Okay, this is my trial balance. And what goes behind a trial balance? Another thing the auditors will request for is this thing called a general ledger. Again, don't be scared, it's just a word, right? General ledger, GL. What is a GL? So if I look at my trial balance, I look at donations program A. My accounting statement says I got $20,000 inside, right? A general ledger basically shows the detailed transactions of what goes into that $20,000. So you will see over here, okay, opening balance because zero at the start of the year. Then along the way, I receive donation from donor X, 15 on 15 February, and then it goes all the way down to the end of the year. This 20,000 here would form my donations of my program A. Everybody understand? Okay? Okay, accessible enough. So these are some things that the auditors will request for. Trial balance, okay, let's go back, okay? Income statement, they will request for your trial balance to show a summary. And then in my trial balance, they will also request for a general ledger that shows all detailed transactions that goes into, for example, the $20,000. So then the next question they ask, right? Documentation there, right? Give me invoice or give me proof that the money came in. Okay, this is where I think I want to go in deeper into your process and helping you to understand actually why auditors need that, right? Basically, they need to prove this like $5,000, right? I need to make sure that the $5,000 has indeed be accurately recorded as a donation in the bank, right? So then there's the $5,000 here. So what documentation do I need to give them? This is very important. I feel like sometimes if you are, for example, a head organization and there's someone else doing bookkeeping for you, sometimes there's a bit of a gap, right? Your bookkeeper put in the $5,000, but maybe the bookkeeper doesn't really understand the business, it doesn't really understand your processes, and then books in the $5,000. And then they come to you as a founder, the auditors come to you as a founder and say, actually, can I have your documentation for this? And then they go to the bookkeeper, they say, don't know, ask your founder. The founder says, don't know, ask your bookkeeper. Then in the end, it's like a question mark, right? Which is why I think designing your process from the start is really important. So for example, this donation in donor X. These days we can receive donations from credit card or PayNow, correct? So let's say we have a fundraising event. Okay, fundraising event and a donor comes in, right? The donor says that I want to donate $5,000. Okay, anybody have run a fundraising event before and has showed a QR code? Yes? Sabna? Yeah. How's the experience like putting a QR code and collecting donations at the and translating that into your books? Yes.
That we get.
Yeah.
So what happens is like you'll have an individual line.
Yes.
A lot of things, and then what I will try to find out is like if there are fundraising event. If yes, then usually if there is additional supporting, like maybe we try to get like thank you note or something that we issue to the donors.
Yeah.
Then I'll try to match with whatever I see in the bank statement.
Yeah.
Then with that, then I'll record that.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, can you get your name? Margareta. Thanks, Margareta. So yeah, with fundraising events, right, it gets a whole volume of it. It doesn't have to be 5,000. It can be $2, $2.50, $3.99. You know, and it goes down the list, right? What kind of documentation am I going to give my auditors? So it could be a Pay Now QR code, right? Direct into your bank, straight up. Then this is my documentation, right, in my bank statement. But sometimes, as a business, right, we want to also be able to capture donors' information, right? We want to be able to thank your donors. We want to be able to reach out to donors. For example, if they give $5,000, we want to make it recurring every month, for example. And if I were to just give a Pay Now QR code, it would be very difficult to collect donors' information or contact, right? So if at the end of the day, this bank statement, yes, it can show audit documentation. There is enough for audit documentation. But as a business, actually, we are unable to capture donor information. So we look at creative ways of doing that, right? I think at Majurity Trust, we use last time we used a Pay Now QR code, and then I was like, there's no way I'm gonna reach out to all these donors. And as Majurity Trust, we are ITC as well, so there is no way I'm able to give out any tax deduction to this donor because it's a Pay Now QR code, right? So then what innovative ways have we ever tried? So we went to work with a web developer, right? Then, and did up a whole website, collect name, collect email, collect address, tax deduction, yes, then IC number and everything. And that system kind of captures into like a Google form, and I can collect my donations as well, and it comes out as like a Google form sheet at the end of the day, and then I'm able to collect my results. The thing is that with something like that, as a donor, right now I have to put my shoes as a donor. I just want to donate that $5,000, right? But you're asking me to fill in my name, everything, and it gets really cumbersome as a donor. When you think about donations, you think about experience of a donor. We want to make it a bit more seamless, right? So how do I balance having documentation, having information with like me as a donor? I just want to donate and I want to make it as seamless as possible. So kind of balancing some of these things as a business, it can be tough. But at the end of the day, when I go back to the audit doesn't really care whether it's a seamless experience for the donor or not. They need documentation. So, for example, let's say if I don't want a Pay Now QR code, what other options can I use? So, at Majurity Trust, we use this payment gateway called Stripe. So Stripe, it links directly into my bank account. The bank account then links. My bank account is able to link to my accounting system, so it's seamless that way. But at Stripe, they are able to collect email. There's a way that you can also collect your NRIC if you need tax deduction, and you are able to collect name and email of donors, so you can be able to reach out as a thank you note. So these are some things that we can even though we need documentation, we also have to know as a business, or we have to think from a business point of view, right? What is essential to the business. So here, $5,000, maybe this is through credit card or Pay Now QR code. So there are also things like maybe as a corporate sponsor, they have bank transfers, right? How do I prove a bank transfer? Or how do I prove not just for bank transfer and prove that it's from this particular donor? So things like email threads, making sure that your fundraising team or you, if you're going out for fundraising, making sure that in the email thread it says donor, I don't know, ABC Bank, right? Want to donate $5,000. So these are things that can be important documentation for some of these things, right? Where do I store documentation? Anyone want to keep a guess? Because it can be anywhere. If it's an email, it's stuck in emails, right? And then let's say if somebody in your company has a turnover and it's stuck in somebody's email, then I lose that documentation. My best practice is that in an accounting system, whenever I put in an entry and I do a reconciliation into my accounting system, I will put my documentation into that particular entry. So download the email, put it up. Download the email, put it up. I know it's a bit like troublesome, but your future self will thank you at the end of the day, or your bookkeeper will thank you at the end of the day, so that we don't need to go and dig emails or go back to dig the Stripe, dig Pay Now QR code, dig bank statements. So these are some things that auditors might look for that we can bear in mind when we kind of design that process of our business. I'll give this necessary documentation. And then there's this big word that says walkthrough over here. Anybody have heard of the word walkthrough from auditors before? Yeah, walkthrough. Basically what a walkthrough is, they want to know your process. So once you come up with a system, right, of how you want to collect your donations, the auditors will ask you for a sample. So if they go back, they will say, like, can you give me a walkthrough on how you get $5,000? So for example, if you were to go to Stripe and then you are able to give like a QR code that goes directly into like Apple Pay, auto-generated Pay Now QR code, then we walk the auditors through. So as a donor, I show my QR code. What happens when they donate? I collect this information, it's stored in this system. Then from this system, it goes on to my bank statement. Then from my bank statement, it appears in my accounting entry. So this is like a walkthrough is basically a detailed understanding of your process of a business. So the better you are able to systemize things, the easier it will be for you and the auditors. So it cannot be in a sense like, if I want to collect donations, maybe this is PayNow, maybe this is credit card, maybe this is bank transfer, maybe this is, you transfer to me first, then I transfer to this person, then I transfer to that, then end up in my bank account. So we want to keep systems clean, keep it in a seamless thing for you and your auditors to understand your business better. So this is what a walkthrough basically is. I give you another example on the income statement expenses side. So $40,000, right? So income statement, trial balance, what goes into that $40,000? It's a bunch of things here, right? And then trial balance, I pick production and logs. I see general ledger. Basically, these are the things that come up to find $18,000, to amount to $18,000. So anybody can tell me what a good documentation is for example, if the auditors pick $3,800, 15 March event crew and technicians. Anyone want to give it a go? Good documentation. Invoices, yeah, the invoices for this, and if the invoice is able to be stored directly into the accounting system, that will be the most direct way. Okay, yeah. So sometimes to get the invoice as a business, how do I end up choosing this particular vendor to pay this $3,800? So it goes one step before sometimes, right? Like as a business, you want to make sure that you have an invoice. You have maybe have an event and you need that event crew. Then you talk to different companies. So for example, if your company has like a, 3 quote process, anything above $3,000, you need to have approval, right? And if your company, if the auditors were to say, hey, where is your 3 quote process? You have to bear in mind that we have to do a 3 quote process and make sure that documentation is also inside, the same folder or the same place that you can easily retrieve for. So these are things that auditors might ask and will ask based on whatever your process is and based on whatever walkthrough you tell them. So if you tell them from the start that anything above $3,000 need 3 quotes, person A will will do up the 3 quotes, person B approves, then they will look for the approval. Then after the approval is ready, then they will look for the invoice, then look for payment and then all the way. So if you were to think of these numbers, it's more than just a number appearing on your accounting system. It's really a process that you can design in your company as a business to make sure that everything in that $3,800 is accounted for. Okay, the other thing is a balance sheet. So they will also ask for your balance sheet, also what is commonly known as a statement of financial position. Okay, a balance sheet is different from an income statement. What a balance sheet is a snapshot. So previously I mentioned that income statement is a summary of transactions that happened during the year. So from 1st January, for example, all the way to 31st December. What a balance sheet is a snapshot at the point of your year end. So for example, 31st December, accounting system pulls out this as an ending balance of your balance sheet. So balance sheet, come out trial balance, right? Other payables and accruals. This is my trial balance that they have. Sometimes they will also ask you for a general ledger for it. But sometimes in the balance sheet, the general ledger can look really messy. Why I say that is that because it's coming in and out. When we see $105,000 here, it is a snapshot. Remember, it's at the point in time. So it's difficult to know, basically, just by looking at this, what really goes into the $105,000, right? To really know what goes into it, you have to do the net off of it in and out. So for example, let's try. Okay, invoice supply here, we got invoice, and then there's a payment. So I will have to cancel these two because this is already netted off, so it wouldn't appear in my $105,000. And this is really confusing sometimes for auditors, and then they will come back to you and ask, can I have a payable schedule? So what exactly is a payable schedule, right? Payable schedule just shows the ending balance of what goes into the $105,000. Don't worry, if you have an accounting system, your accounting system should be able to pull that out for you. So they will ask things in a balance sheet, for balance sheet items, they will ask things, they will ask for a schedule for kind of each line item of your trial balance. So this keeps things clear on what really goes into the $105,000. Everybody okay? Yeah. What do I want to say? Naturally, the documentation for this as well, for payables, will be an invoice, and whatever walkthrough that you brought your auditors through, they will need a documentation for that. So yeah, so I want to say that a starter pack will look like this. When I say at the start, when we, as Majurity, when we prepare for an audit, before an auditors reach out to us, this is what we will kind of prepare. So a trial balance is basically your different accounts that you have. A general ledger will be the summary of all your transactions. What a balance sheet schedule is basically this. For each item that you have over here, you will know exactly what goes into each amount, right? And it's the same thing as for fixed asset register too. I think for smaller charities, I would think that most of your fixed assets would be just a laptop, maybe. So it keeps things easy. What a fixed asset register would look like is maybe you have 10 laptops, laptop 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, the date of purchase, purchase price, and then depreciation, and then the ending balance, right? Don't worry, again, if you have a bookkeeper, the bookkeeper will be able to pull that out for you. If you have an accounting system, the accounting system should be able to pull that out for you. And the last thing here that I did not really cover is really bank reconciliation. What a bank reconciliation is to make sure that your books equals your bank, right? Sometimes I spoke to different granting partners before. I have friends who are also doing accounts outside of the social impact sector. Bank reconciliation can sometimes be a headache because sometimes you cannot find 10 cents, cannot find $10. And then common thing sometimes is like they will think that finance people are always like digging for that 10 cents, and then the usual response is like, hey, I give you the 10 cents lah. It doesn't work like that. If you give me the 10 cents, then I will have a 20-cent difference. That makes my job even worse, right? So we don't want to get there. Bank reconciliations, my take is that actually should be done, if you can, every month. So, you don't wait till the end of the year and then you realize you have $123,000, 456.98 difference, and then you try to scramble. When your memory is fresh, or when your bookkeeper memory is fresh, the bank reconciliation can be done should be done every month in my recommendation, and at the end of the year, you just keep things easy. Right? So then we are able to close this off the fastest, and then everything else can be prepared after that. Everyone okay? I had an earlier question, right? Someone asked, so I have a bookkeeper running my account. Sometimes they give me the accounts, right? I don't really know what I'm looking at. I just sign, right? I trust what the person is doing because the person is professional. But along the way, maybe sometimes you will realize there are mistakes because the bookkeeper is also human, right? So what can you really ask for? Then you wear the hat of the auditor, right? Then you ask for your bookkeeper, hey, they usually give you, maybe, when they pass you the account, they will give you as an income statement. They will show you maybe like an income statement or management accounts, and then they will show you the balance sheet, right? So in the same way, if you want to know what goes behind these numbers, these are terms that you can even use to ask your bookkeepers, like, hey, can I have the trial balance? What goes behind this number? General ledger, you can see the detailed transactions that go in. So sometimes if you're outsourcing it to somebody else, I like the best is you can check whether the person has recorded things accurately. Because sometimes at the end of the year, 12 months later, the person, maybe the bookkeeper just say donation from 15 March. And then I'm like, what happened at 15 March? You're not sure, right? So the description can be clearer. It can be easier for you to remember what happened during the year. And if, for example, you cannot find documentation about this donation of 15 March, a clearer description will be able to jig your memory better to say, oh, maybe I remember I reached out to this donor, maybe Mr. ABC, and then I find an email from them. So general ledger is really important. The descriptions are important as well. I know I'm being recorded here, but maybe don't say things like error in this or like missing, if you see things like missing, error, or if it's blank, you should go back to your bookkeeper to really understand what that is, right? You want to be able to flag out some things that auditors will flag out before they even come to you. So knowing the problem early is always best. Everyone okay? This is really just a starter pack. They will come with a PBC list. PBC just means prepared by client. So these things are prepared by you early. They will come with a bunch of other requests. But really, if you have this ready, I think you are like 60% ready for an audit. Yeah. And everything after that should follow based on what kind of processes that you have. Everyone okay? Sorry, I know I'm a bit rambling, but I hope you all can understand what I'm saying. I'm really trying to make this accessible to each one of you. So when I think about numbers, majority, I don't just, I see finance less of a, I just need to perform my regulatory things, and then as a and I'm a different department from my colleagues, right? Sometimes finance can feel a bit distant, like, y'all don't know what I'm doing, or like y'all just want to get like your accounting system ready, y'all want reconciliations, right? How I see finance at majority, or my role as finance, is really less of a side department. I see finance actually as something that undergirds the entire organization. So you see it like a I guess a backbone of the organization, because everything comes in through any transaction that happens during company will come in through in money and money out, right? And if you sometimes find it hard to understand finance, just be nice to them. There's the end goal is that you remember begin and remind. There's a need for signed financial statements to go out. So please be nice. It's really to I think the finance role can be more than just a bookkeeping thing, or it can also be really understanding of business and making sure there are proper processes in place. So what I have, like kind of three summary of it. What do I think about finance, and what do I think about processes? Processes need to be intuitive. Sometimes people ask me like, listen, for like, why do I need to do this thing? Why, for what need to have this invoice? For what need to have this approval, right? It is really, as a finance person, I don't want to. It's not purposely want to make you do certain things. It is really, at the end of the day, needing the necessary documentation that the auditors need to clear the audit, right? To make your life and my and the finance life easier. So if you can make your processes intuitive, like for example, if I spoke earlier about the Pay Now QR code, right? It is, if I put a cash bank Pay Now QR code, it is intuitive, right? I put in, scan the QR code, give $10, and then I receive the $10. But then remember, we won't be able to collect donors' data. So then we go, previously then we built this like custom website, collect the information. But actually, from the business point of view, as a donor, what I mentioned earlier, it's not as seamless, and sometimes the experience can be not as tight. So we, as a finance team, we kind of be a bit more creative, explore what are the other ways that we can collect donations. Then we found Stripe, and then they have this thing called a payment link. Basically, scan the QR code with your phone, it goes into Apple Pay, donate, and you get to collect your donor's name and information. So make things intuitive, make things simple. If a process currently that you have is very complicated, or maybe not as it's hard to systemize it, sometimes take a step back. Like, think of yourself as an end user. What is easy and what is straightforward for you? So you put yourself in kind of the user shoes to make it intuitive. Second is to know your stakeholders and business. I want to bring up an example. So I sat down with a friend who's also somewhere in the social impact sector, and then she's basically kind of the deputy ED of the company, and she's having a lot of problem with the finance team. Basically, what her problem is that, or rather the issue is not the finance team. Okay, I don't want to put it on the finance team. The issue is that claims from her employees are usually miscoded. So for example, if the charity has program A, B, C, D, E, and then they are under program A, right? And then they spend on the transport $20 on Grab under program A. But then somehow when they claim, they put under program C under transport. And then it makes it difficult. The accounts are not as clean. Then the finance person will like, hey, actually this person is under program A, why claim program C? Then I dive in deeper, right? What happened? What makes, how come there's so many errors of this case? So I asked her to show me her claim form. Claim form is basically an Excel sheet with a drop down. And you would see numbers. So when I go back as a finance person, because the finance person designed the claim form, right? You will see the account code, program A, dash transport. The drop-down list can only see the drop-down list can only see the number and then a couple of alphabets of the program name. So they can't even identify which one is it. And then sometimes as caseworkers or when you're on the ground, you're tired, you just want the $20 back. Yeah, never mind, choose this one. Then get approved, right? And sometimes the deputy ED also just approve, right? Then comes to finance, actually wrong. So I wouldn't say people's mistake on their part. I wouldn't, finance can go back to the person and say, actually it's because you didn't categorize properly, then hence it's your fault. But you know, as finance person, you have to, or rather, I wear my empathy hat, right? The person is also tired. The person also wants to, just want to get their things claimed, and there are many things to do, and the claim is also like an administrative thing that they have to settle. How can I make that process better for this caseworker who wants to get her money back, right? So I sat down with her, looked through that list, that drop-down list, and then I tried to rejig some of the things. So instead of seeing those numbers in front, there's no need, the caseworker doesn't need to know your account code, whether it's 42116 or 42117, doesn't matter to the caseworker. All the caseworker needs to know program name and transport, right? So basically I sat down with her, cleaned up that list, took away the entire numbers, and then put program and then transport. But I still have to think, because I'm also a finance person, right? How then the finance person can link to my finance accounting system? So then use formulas lah. Don't know how to use formulas? It's okay. These days ChatGPT is great, guys. Put in, say, this is my problem, I need a formula. Churn it out, try it a few times and kind of refine it, and usually the formula can kind of work. I say this with a lot of empathy and heart for people who find it hard to use Google Sheets as well. But I've tried it out with a couple of my team members, and actually ChatGPT is game changer. So you can try that on your end if you ever need to use any like Google Sheet formula to journal something for you. So basically, when I sat down with her and then we did this whole thing, and she's like, oh my gosh, you just humanize this for me. And which is why we got the word humanize, right? I was like, oh, I guess so. I never thought about it that way. To me, it was more like kind of just trying to make it intuitive. And actually, at the end of the day, is knowing who is the person using the claim form, right? The claim form person is not just the finance person, but it's throughout and everybody in the organization. Whether your organization is 10 people, 50 people, is to make it easy for the person to be able to use it. So yeah, knowing your stakeholders and your business is important. And 3, invest. So I remember my friend that I told you about, she's just using Excel. I told her, how about you consider an accounting system, right? Or a claim system that links to your accounting system. So instead of using Excel every month, everything is very manual, and then with manual it comes human error. Whether how perfect the human is, there will always be human error. To cut down on the human error process, invest in Majurity Trust we're using Xero. I think it's $4 per month per person to be able to submit claims into the system, into their claim system that's linked to my accounting system. And then basically it's seamless in a way where they are able to choose the account. Once they get approved of their claims, they get a notification. Once the claims is approved, they get a payment notification. So check on the caseworker end or on my colleague's end, it's they know when the money is coming in. And on the finance end, I don't need to scan the receipt, drag the receipt, make sure everything tallies to the total number. So where I'm coming from with also a lot of empathy, because I'm also finance, and I always tell my company, don't spend. If you can don't spend. But certain things I think is learning when to invest in good systems will really help. So if you are still on Excel on a Google sheet, really, so I say this again with a lot of empathy, because when I first started with Majurity, we were doing Excel, and not just Excel, right? We printed out, then the receipts are stapled at the back. And then what I had to do then was that I need to take, that calculator, have you all seen? The big calculator, key in one by one, and then make sure it tallies, and then I need to type all this into a system again. So it really cuts down a lot of my time. If anything, it's like probably 80% of the time, and all I kind of really need to do now when I approve claims is to make sure that the number ties is correctly recorded or coded. If it's wrong, then I go back to my colleague to say, hey, remember that I said I don't want to be that finance auntie to tell you, why I never put event, why I never put receipt. Please don't let me be the auntie and get it right the first time. And slowly, when you build that kind of practice, my colleagues have been doing really well, right? I haven't really been coming back to people too much, right? I think so. Maybe one or two, but it's okay. Yeah, but kind of investing into a system like that really saves a lot of your time and also cut down on human error. So yeah, this is kind of my takeaway from just building a process, and kind of at the end of the day, making sure that there's enough documentation of this that I pass my audit. Yeah, everyone okay? Okay, so this is more of I'm kind of done with the reflection part of kind of the audit and process, what I think about building a process looks like. I'll just jump right into legal requirements that we have to do as a CLG, or if you're a charity, then annual submissions. Annual submissions, okay, if you're a CLG, I think you just need to file your FS with ACRA by the 7th month of your year end. If you are a charity, registered charity in Singapore, then we are subjected to 3 different submissions. One is financial statements and online financial statements. So this is a bulk of it that auditors will have already covered, right? Annual report and governance evaluation checklist. It's too short of a time to go into detail what they should have, but when I first started out at Majurity, I know that there are certain regulations of what needs to go into an annual report. So what I did was went onto Charities portal and found this legislation governing charities IPC. And then I went into each one of these, or if it's applicable, right? Okay, maybe because if it's applicable, then I went into each one of them, kind of look at the left side column to see the paragraphs or what's applicable for annual report and financial statements. And then I went into each regulation to look at it. Remember when I said that I went to accounting school because I like math, and then when I went to accounting school, I realized it's all regulations. So when I had to pull this out, it was painful as heck. But I just knew that I had to do it because there are certain regulations that we have to follow based on the different acts that we are exposed to. But what I recently found a hack, okay, and I just want to put it out, it's a hack, okay? It's not like a foolproof thing. It's not. I'm not telling you that you should follow this method, but it's just a hack that I found. It's actually, they actually had published this thing called a Charity Transparency Framework. So if you go into Charity Transparency Framework, they will go into greater detail on what it's good transparency, what needs to be disclosed or what is a good practice for charities. And then over here, there's a self-assessment on self-assessment tool that you can use. Basically, it's like a list of like 15 to 30 items depending on your size of the charity, and then they will say, okay, have you disclosed this? Have you not disclosed this? If your charity, for example, has close family members to the ED, have you disclosed this, right? And actually all of this, some of them inside here are non-mandatory, some of them are like good practice, but some of them inside are also mandatory. So if you are allergic to regulations and acts and all these wordings, where we can first start off with, right, I'm saying that this is really a first cut exercise, is to look at this self-assessment tool, and when you're doing up your annual report, making sure that these are some of the disclosures that go in. As I said earlier, some of them are regulatory, some of them are best practice that you should follow. Either way, we all want to be at best practice, so it's a good checklist to be able to follow as you start building up your annual report, or kind of track through your annual report when you do your annual submissions. And of course, there's a governance evaluation checklist. I think anyone not familiar with it as a charity, never heard of it before? That checklist alone also will. It's a mandatory thing that we have to submit every year, and then as you go through the list, some of them might affect your annual report as well. So those things can go into your annual report. Everyone okay? Annual submissions. I mean, I'm open after this to take more questions about annual submissions, but I think just for the sake of this session, to cover what the heck that I found recently. The last thing on my agenda, corporate secretary. Is there a need, right? ACRA says that 6 months into your incorporation, you need a company secretary. Do you need a company secretarial firm? You don't, right? The regulation states that the person needs to be a Singaporean. It has to be an individual person. It doesn't have to be an entity. It can be an individual person. So actually, people like me and you can be company secretaries too, right? Unless you are a sole director of the company, and then if you're a sole director, you cannot be a company secretary. So actually, we don't really need a corporate secretarial firm in that case. But let me caveat, okay? The corporate secretary firm is there for a purpose. They are professionals. They know what needs to go into the financials. They know what needs to go into filing, constitution, documents that are needed. So they have experience and have knowledge. So is there a need to hire a corporate secretary firm or a person? No, but it would 100% make your life easier if you leave it to somebody who's hopefully good, and hopefully you will get things done and moving. So yeah, this is kind of the overview of what I have. I hope it's like easy to understand.